progress.
Flag salute and read the land acknowledgement. So students, take it away.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
And will you also please read the land acknowledgement?
The Pacifica School District acknowledges that we gather on the unceded ancestral homelands of the Ramaytush Ohlone people.
As guests, we humbly extend our gratitude to the Ramaytush Ohlone elders and community.
We recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland, and we affirm their sovereign rights as First People.
As the original stewards of this land, the Ramaytush Ohlone understand the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of maintaining harmony with nature.
Likewise, Pacifica School District commits to teaching our school community how to be responsible stewards of this land.
And now we have some interesting facts about Sunset Ridge. We recently had family day with kids in lower grades. I remember when I had my first family day in kindergarten. During family day, we all wrote our favorite colors and favorite sports. My favorite part of family day was seeing everyone happy.
After a year in virtual school, we're finally back in person. Thanks to Sunset Ridge and our board members, we're together again. Now that we're back, we can create bigger, better, and stronger memories. On October 22nd, Sunset Ridge will be hosting our annual Halloween celebration Food Fest. We will have carnival games, spooky crafts, bounce houses, a haunted house, and much more fun activities to choose from. If you have a costume you want to wear, you're encouraged to wear it. Save the date, Saturday, October 22nd from 2 to 5 p.m.
Fifth grade has recently returned from outdoor ed, and I've got to say, learning about all of the animals in nature was really fun. I think my favorite part was seeing the crabs at the beach. Overall, outdoor ed was a great experience.
Sunset Ridge staff members, they are the best. They help all of us make the world a better place and teach us new things that we did not know about Sunset Ridge. Sunset Ridge teaches us, all of us, to have fun.
Is that it? Thank you.
Students and parents, thank you very much for coming for a board meeting today. We certainly don't expect everyone to stay. We know that bedtimes and homework will facilitate leaving, but I couldn't have dreamed of that going any better than it did. So thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good. That's great. Cleaning up a little bit here before we move on.
Okay, I'll get that ready. The district records the audio portions of the meeting. All recordings are kept in the superintendent's office for 30 days and are available during that time period for inspection by members of the public on district equipment without charge. In-person speakers wishing to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items, please complete a request card with your name, address, and the item number and submit it to the board president or superintendent. You will be called to address the board and you may speak for up to 3 minutes. Virtual speakers wishing to address the board on board agenda or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and the agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board. Your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak for up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. Oh, I'm sorry. Barbara, will you take the roll call?
Trustee Gonzalez asking, trustee Burkini.
Here.
Trustee Doggett.
Here.
Trustee Patel.
Here.
Trustee Villalobos.
Here.
Thank you.
Yeah. The board met in closed session regarding a conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Significant exposure to litigation pursuant Government Code Section 54956.9D2, one potential case, and the board voted 4-0 to approve the settlement agreement. All right. Approval of the minutes of September 21st, 2022. Are there any questions regarding these minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 21st, 2022 regular board meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And do I have a second?
No second?
Barbara, will you take the roll call vote?
Yes, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you.
And then all other items on the consent agenda will be approved with one motion, which is not debatable and requires a unanimous vote for passage. If any member of the board, the superintendent, or public so requests, any item shall be removed from this section and placed in the regular order of business following the approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions regarding the agenda or consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
A motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
And do I have a second?
No second?
Barbara, will you take the vote, please?
Yes, all in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes 4-0.
All right, speakers wishing to address the board on agenda items or non-agenda items, please submit your first and last name and the agenda item you wish to speak on in the Q&A area of the webinar. Please do not submit comments or questions in the Q&A area. You will be called to address the board and your microphone will be unmuted and you may speak for up to 3 minutes. After you have spoken, your microphone will be muted. First up, we have LSEA.
What's that? What do you need? Paper towels. Oh, sure.
Good evening. Hello? Hi. Did you respond that you can hear me? Yeah? It's hard to talk. Okay. Good evening. As union president, part of my role is to be assertive on behalf of our union members and their interests. I know sometimes the words delivered can be read or heard as aggressive, but really we've just got to assert what is right. Sometimes our members need that help. They've tried following the district delineated lines for communication and get no answers, and they turn to us and we step in and support from there. Sometimes that might be perceived as aggressive or out of line, but we are simply jumping in when teachers need it. Believe me, we have other things to do and ways we'd rather spend our time. We really aren't interested in more work, specifically difficult work. Sometimes, oftentimes, when our LSEA leadership team is faced with difficulty, it would be easier for us to simply throw our hands up and give up, ignore problems. The challenges and problems the classified and certificated staff of Pacifica School District have to deal with are relentless. And this means LSEA and CSEA leadership is often called in for support. I know Nicole, as president of CSEA, and I, as president of LSEA, have no plans on giving up on these problems and leaving members to fend for themselves. We plan to work with our respective leadership teams to take on the challenges and face them head on. If you identify as a leader in this district, I encourage you to take on the challenges with your team, face them and work through them. Don't shelter and shy away. Learn from mistakes, learn from positive and negative experiences, and keep remembering that the byproduct of all our work is the strong education and caring environment we provide the students of Pacifica. Every action and every decision we take or don't take at every level in this district impacts the students of.
We just lost your sound. Wait 1 second.
That was it. I said, that was my last. Every action and every decision we take or don't take at every level in this district impacts the of Pacifica.
Thanks, Megan. Anything else? She's gone. Okay. All right, CSEA.
Hello, my name is Nicole Sayers, and I am the president of CSEA. I'd like to acknowledge a transfer from Eugenie Hoffman, school assistant at Ocean Shore School, who I think just got a couple more hours or something to help her out, so that was really good news. I'd also like to let you know that this month's Above and Beyond Awards went to August 2022 recipients are Jackie Cavell, paraprofessional at Ocean Shore School, and Cynthia Dimmick, behaviorist at Ocean Shore School. These two members worked above and beyond at the beginning of the school year and served their needs of their students while dealing with unforeseen challenges. In September 2022, the recipients are Yolanda Pranza, PSD Administrative Secretary, and Paula Suter, RSP professional at Cabrillo. Yolanda continues to go above and beyond while supporting multiple departments and always with a smile. Paula stepped up to work as a one-on-one to meet the needs of a student due to PSD staffing vacancies. Okay. For the last couple of years, I've spoken about kindness, to be considerate of others, to show compassion, to realize that you don't know what others are going through. This month, I feel we've taken a backslide. This was a tough month in terms of kindness, consideration, respect, and compassion. I'll address 4 specific examples to clarify why I feel this way. 2 weeks ago, my labor rep and I were informed that the district had made an error in the way that they were paying medical benefits for 20 of our members. Essentially, the district has been covering their dental and medical benefits completely. The district called this a misuse of public funds and said that although this error has been in effect for 20 years, they would only ask us that we change it moving forward. They seemed pleased that this error was magically discovered while it was still open enrollment, so these 20 members may be able to reduce the out-of-pocket cost that they were going to be charged by changing their medical benefits. If they chose not to change the medical benefits, they were going to have to pay an estimated $70 to $800 taken out of their paychecks monthly, depending on their plan, starting January 2023. This was shocking. CSEA called an emergency meeting to discuss the matter. It turned out that some of us had already known about this. One thing we all understood was that our CBO, Josie Peterson, would never let an error of this magnitude go on for 20 years. Josie keeps a close eye on our district finances and would never put her name on an error that went for 20 years. CSEA believes that this was never an error, as the district stated, but instead a past practice that just happened to benefit this group of classified employees. My 2 vice presidents, our labor rep and I, spent the evening of Monday, September 26th, calling the 20 members ourselves to inform them of what was happening. One of those members has been battling cancer for over 14 years. Her husband also has health issues. Another member suffered a stroke while on the job last year and still deals with the aftermath of that. A third member's husband suffered a stroke last year and needs care because he received a pacemaker. The other members simply struggle every month to make ends meet. The stress of not having enough money is real, and this was another hit that they were going to have to deal with. They cried, they had anxiety, they got mad. They didn't understand why this was happening and why the district didn't tell them about it. They felt hopeless and like the work that they did every day didn't matter to anyone, and that made them feel like a group that no one cared about and that they were less than. No one slept that night. Being the president of the union, I did the only thing I thought I could, The next morning, I offered them the district public telephone number and told them to let the HR and the superintendent know how this would affect their lives, and I offered them the emails to the Board of Trustees. Thankfully, the district let us know by 4:30 that day they no longer had an interest in this issue and may want to take it to the table. As good as that news was for us, it caused so much needless anxiety and fear for our members that it really upsets me. This matter should have been handled better. This was handled in a very uncompassionate way, and I feel it was unfair and certainly not kind. Number 2, according to the CSEA bargaining agreement, our members can expect to receive their personal action forms by June 1st every year. This year, we received them on September 29th. Although we could have filed a grievance, we wanted to work with the district on this. We wanted to show some compassion for the other matters that the district was dealing with. When the personal action forms arrived, they were stapled to a half cover sheet, but the action form was not stapled closed or placed in an envelope as it had been through past management. When a member questioned why they had not been at least stapled for privacy matters, the district told her flatly, all the information on the sheet is open to public knowledge, so there's really no need to staple the sheets or put them in envelopes. This is true. This is true. Anyone can look up our salaries online, but management salaries are also open to public knowledge, and I don't think that they would appreciate us posting their wages around the schools for others to see. Putting the classified personal action forms in an envelope with our names on it would have been kind and respectful to over 100 members. Number 3, recently a member of FMNO was asked by a supervisor what some of the issues might be to the members of the department as he was planning an upcoming meeting for his staff. The FMNO staff mentioned that some of the guys are ready to order new work boots. Work boots are an OSHA requirement and had been negotiated with the district under Article 11.1. The supervisor stated that since he was not asked to attend those union negotiations, he would have to talk to HR, and that no one told him about this, and he questioned whether or not he really needed to do this. New work boots were negotiated between the district and CSEA. The supervisor will need to order the boots. It's good that the supervisor wanted to check in with HR about the agreement. But the issue is, why the defensive attitude? Why make this more of an argument than just a search for some knowledge? We all need to be careful about the tone and the words we use with each other. We should speak to each other the way we would like to be spoken to. The way we communicate with each other creates the feelings that we end up carrying around. I would like to ask all of us to take an extra moment to think about what we are saying and how we are saying it. Take a moment to try to say things in a more kind way. Number 4, lastly, there was an incident, a parking issue that was just simply unnecessary. We all need to take a second to think about our actions. Think to ourselves, if I do this, how might this affect others? I work at all the schools every week. I happily park on the streets because I respect the teachers, the staff, and the parents. I understand that the spots are for the staff of the school. I can walk a few extra steps. I feel it is respectful and courteous. If the spaces at the district office were designated for specific people, I would never think of parking in someone else's spot. Not only because it would be wrong, but it would be discourteous and disrespectful. So again, I will ask that we take an extra moment to think about our words and how our actions affect other people, that we all try a little harder to work together and remember why we are all here. Thank you for your time.
People wishing to address the board. We have one speaker, Michelle Gray. For 9C, isn't it? Are we on 9C? Okay, let's do the virtual one first. And we'll do the in-person. Hi, Michelle.
Sorry, I couldn't be there in person. I just wanted to take a second and acknowledge what I hope is a little breakthrough and some momentum building around our grounds and fields. As you know, I've been coming and speaking for quite some time. I'm the mom of Valley Market and IBL Kid, and I'm lucky enough to be the president of the IBL PTO this year. And last week, really want to thank Heather and George and also Tom Stafford, who's our interim principal, and our vice principal there, Chito Garcia, for taking time out to meet with me and two leaders from our local sports community organizations out on the field, talking about how we can move a plan forward to really provide a much better place for our kids and a place where some of these community sports groups can get out there and use, right? So someday, hopefully generating little revenue. So just wanted to say thank you very much for coming out and doing that. I know it wasn't a huge part of your time, but it means an awful lot to the community when you take the time out to come and talk to us and brainstorm on how we can kind of break through some of the barriers and figure out how to move things forward. So hoping to see some grass seeds growing out on the field in the next couple of weeks, but thanks for that, and love if this was a sign of more to come. So thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
You want to do the in-person?
Yep.
This is Nicole Ortega.
Oh, hiding over there. Hi.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Nicole Ortega, and I'm the second vice president of CSEA Chapter 128 and a longtime PSD employee. On September 26, 2022, our chapter president, our first vice president, myself, and our union rep spent over 4 hours delivering heartbreaking news to 20 PSD classified employees regarding severe changes that were going to impact their medical benefits and their paychecks starting in January of 2023. I want to tell you that this caused unnecessary trauma to the employees that had to receive this information and to the 4 of us that had to deliver it. There were tears, there was frustration, confusion, anger. It's just one more example, a documented example of why PSD classified employees do not feel valued or appreciated. There's enough going on in the world without having to worry about, in a short amount of time, how your family is going to come up with anywhere from almost $100 to over $800 a month when you are already severely underpaid. I bring this information to you, the board, so that you are aware of what happened and that you are aware of the trauma that it caused to many people. And I am hopeful that you will take steps to ensure that this never happens again. I thank you for your time. Good evening.
Tom O'Toole.
Okay, I sent out an email my daughter and I sent out an email to John Bartlett on the 14th regarding the replacement of the RSP teacher at Cabrillo School. My granddaughter there, Georgina Bates, has mild autism and ADHD. And we recognize, of course, that the RSP teacher is important to many, many more students. I have no idea how many. You know that information, I don't. With the sudden loss of the RSP teacher just before the start of the school year, I understand the circumstances. She was struggling without a resource teacher, and she, after the end of the day and the stress of the day, she was coming home and completely losing it most days. As of September 14th and a little bit before, she is in 8th grade there, and she has had most of the same teachers for 7th and 8th grade and the same para. And they are helping because they know her. And their 2 new teachers they're helping her for the new teachers to know her also. Kudos to your staff. Ms. Fox has been amazing as a para. The other teachers, Turner, Elsenberg, Potter, Uray, forgive my pronunciation, and Dreyer have been great with modifying homework, testing, and so forth. You have amazing teachers. They are overworked when they do this stuff, however, because they have other stuff to do. You know that. In Georgina's case, Ms. Ellsberg actually took over coordinating this with the other teachers, previously done that by the RSP teacher, and they're telling us how to help her at home. It's getting better, but there's still many days, and it's still a lot of stress for her. She has, in her own mind, compensated by this she now refers to Ms. Fox as her RSP teacher. So in her own mind, she's compensating that to make herself feel better. Quick conclusion, we are at the end of the first trimester, already without a replacement. Her already overworked teachers are going to the string to help her and helping many others. The RSP teachers needed as soon as possible for her, and the other teachers, and the time relief for the teachers and para, so they can go about their normal work easier. The timing is critical for us, particularly because of the high school transition and the effect of COVID. Would ask to try to be updated about where this stands and try to be informed as to how this can be addressed. And thank you very much.
Okay. Gia Ramsey.
My name is Gia Ramsey. I am working as a paraprofessional at Sunset Ridge. I am one of the 20 people to receive a phone call regarding the possible health insurance changes. When I saw Nicole Sayers' number come up on my phone at 7:45 p.m., my first thought was, oh no, I hope the kids are okay. I didn't know which one. I just thought of all the ones I have worked with and have recently met. That was my first thought. As I was hearing the changes that could possibly happen to my health insurance, I became angry. When I was hired, I was told that the money was not great, but we do give health insurance to our part-time employees. It was a selling point, a big selling point. I was hired as a para, then I was hired as a behavioralist. I have been punched, slapped, hit, bit, kicked. I had many bruises and been verbally abused by the students I work with. And through it all, I have been dedicated to working my best with all of them, to help them in any way we can, and so have my colleagues. My commitment to our students was something I felt in my heart. I felt part of a team trying to help, part of this school district, a community that supported each other. We are in this together. I was proud. I went to school the next day after the phone call, and of course, everyone was upset. I was angry. At you, the Board of Trustees. How dare you try to take away the little we have? You just don't understand all we do. How dare you, so out of touch, sitting on your high horse. Who do you think you are? I apologize to the board for those thoughts. Because imagine my shock when I found out the idea to take away what little from us was from our own human resources and entertained by our district office managers. I couldn't believe it. To me, these are the people that are supposed to be my team leaders, people who stand with me and back me up, who support us, want the best for us and this school district community. Now I know that's not true at all. It is a fact that I am more committed to this school district than this school district is committed to me. How do I feel? I feel devalued. I feel expendable. I feel unappreciated. The team leaders of this school district are not ones I can trust or feel safe with anymore because now I know my best interest is not their priority. How do I feel? It doesn't matter how I feel because now I know I'm just a number on a list of 20 people. To our union representatives for standing behind us and for being willing to fight for us, for all their hard work and support, thank you.
I hope I'm pronouncing this last name right, but Darren Tavares.
I'm Darren Chavarria, and I'm a paraeducator at Sunset Ridge. I found out through our union president that our Pacifica School District is going to contribute less money for our medical benefits. When Nicole Sayers called me to tell us, I burst into tears. She called all 20 of us. The major reason I took this job as a paraeducator was, of course, my love for children, but was for the school district benefits. I'm 61 years old and married. My partner has serious medical conditions, just suffered a stroke this past June, and a pacemaker was implanted last June of 2021, and recently lost vision in one eye. A retinal surgery was performed just Monday. He's a general contractor and he's self-employed. And he's recently gone back to work, modified duty. But if he doesn't work, we don't get paid. My family needs these medical benefits. I want our son to be on these benefits too, but when I went to see Miss Rivera, I found out it would be extremely expensive. I understand that for just this school year, 2022-2023, our employee contribution will remain the same. Thank goodness. But what about next year? I don't want to leave my job. I have worked here since 2010, and I love working with our community students, but I would seriously consider leaving. I would have to pay $400 more per month out of my check, which would put my check at $600 per month, and I cannot live on that. What is Pacifica School District saving with this? $5,000 to $10,000 per month? Maybe upper management should consider taking cuts. Big thank you to our union. Thank you.
There was some correspondence that's on the board agenda, and that we will also post on our website. It was the letter from, let's see, where is that? It was the letter from San Mateo County Office of Ed approving our LCAP, final approval of our LCAP, but there are pretty specific budget details in there for anyone that's interested.
And do we have any board or superintendent communication? Start at the end there with Trustee Patel. Do you have any?
Since the last meeting, well, I had my meeting with superintendent. I received 2 emails from concerned parents, and I visited IBL, and I met CC there, and I wanted to go over and see all the work that's been done with the bond money so far. I have to say that safety is the thing that stands out the most, because I feel like it's closed campus now with the fencing. And then when you walk through the front doors, there's going to be security. So the parent will have to push the button, the video, and they'll have to be buzzed in. And so I understand that's going to happen at all the schools. That's what CC said.
It's part of the security camera.
Yeah. So, there's Ortega, which, has the office way, halfway down the hall to the right. So I was pretty happy about that. And then I just wanted to thank, I hope I say his last name right, Mark Ubehagen, for his This Week in Music, which I enjoy watching and listening to.
All right. I attended 2 different workforce housing meetings. Working on field design is some of the last things the city is interested in, and then I'm working through some of the last bits and pieces with the city. I think that this probably going to be hearing more about that soon. I also attended a Cabrillo meeting around the gym, that was supposed to be, or planned to be built there because with Measure O money. There was actually quite a lot of concern that maybe the needs of Cabrillo have changed. There was interest in more rooms, better fences, upper deck access, and then we talked about desks and chairs, and maybe that we should revisit the master plan regarding that. So that was interesting. There was just a lot of feedback around that. And that's what I've been doing.
I've only been able to meet with Heather because my schedule has just been swamped. So that's pretty much it for me. The last 2 days, Cabinet has been working on reviewing and updating 750 board policies. We did it with a CSBA facilitator, and we'll be able to actually very easily have the updated policies in front of you with plenty of time to read it. And because it's done in one swoop with calling out the big picture items, I think we'll be able to do that in a less than 3-hour meeting in January. So excited about that. Tomorrow starts, we had a professional development day on Friday. And then tomorrow starts the iReady differentiated instruction, which happens at the school site. It's going to happen at Cabrillo. We are very likely to be short subs, so you're looking at them right here. Will and I are planning to be at Cabrillo tomorrow, just to make sure that that professional development day goes off for Cabrillo teachers, where they'll meet in small groups.
And it seems as though we have a presentation today.
We do. Patrick Sayers, Executive Director of Pacifica School Volunteers.
Thank you. Well, first off, I'd just like to say that this is a well-timed presentation because Pacifica School Volunteers is approaching 25 years of service with the Pacifica School District and providing volunteers to our students. And so I know that there's new board members, I know that there's new people in the district, and this is a good time to go ahead and reintroduce the Pacifica School Volunteers. So, Will, if you want to, oh, okay, great, there it is. Pacifica School Volunteers is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So we're kind of an outside organization that's coming in and helping the school district with placing volunteers where they're needed. We're not contracted or a part of the district, but we're a separate 501c3 nonprofit organization. And we provide a comprehensive program to support the education and well-being of children in Pacifica's public schools. Our work is based upon the belief that students, families, schools, and the community all benefit when the number of responsible individuals invested in the success of public schools increases. More volunteers, more adults, the better education. Our placement of caring volunteers in the classroom provides academic tutoring, but also provides access for students to build trusting relationships and have consistent, positive role models, two key factors in promoting resilience in children. On the screen is our logo with the helping hand. You want to bring that back, Will? Back to the first. Yeah, sorry. Right, that's okay. On the screen is our logo with the helping hand of our volunteers and the logo there. Next. PSV began when two concerned parents, Gail Benton Shoemaker and Claire Harrison, recognized the need for additional help at our most needy schools. From 1997, we have grown from 23 volunteers in one school to a network of more than 200 volunteers helping children in all 6 schools in the Pacifica School District. In 2018-2019, volunteers provided over 27,000 volunteer hours with our local students. Next. PSV recruits, screens, and qualifies potential volunteers, matches volunteers to teacher and program needs, and then continues to train and support volunteers so that they are successful. PSV offers multiple programs for volunteer placement in order to meet the needs identified by schools. In this screen, you can see one of our volunteers placed in the middle of the classroom that they are volunteering in. And part of our mission is to inspire a love of learning, advance academic achievement, promote student well-being, and build community. Some of the programs that we offer to the district is, along with our weekly volunteers, which is placing adult volunteers into classrooms with students that need assistance. We also provide read aloud days when we invite members of the community to come in and read stories to classrooms very similar to this. We are also involved with the Oceana High School Senior Projects Exhibition. So the Oceana High School has a graduation program where each senior needs to write and present about a 30-minute presentation on some subject that they will present. And so we provide the volunteers that come in and evaluate those presentations. Then we have ThinkBridge Summer Camp, which is during the summer. And then we also have Oceana High School Community Service Programs. We work a lot with Oceana High School, placing their high school students in after-school programs in the Pacifica School District. Next. So I'd like to go over some of the highlights from 2021 to 2022. This is a mixture of highlights that combine with the time period before COVID and then during COVID. Community volunteers, we had 52 volunteers placed at 165 volunteer hours a week with 8,000 annual total hours. 40 Pacifica School District teachers classrooms served. High school volunteers, we had 35 Oceana High School students volunteer 80 hours a week for a total of 3,500 annual total hours. IBL, we provided high school volunteers at the IBL Boys and Girls School. The one thing I wanted to say in terms of our response during distant learning is that we trained 40 volunteers to work their computers so they could work with teachers in their virtual classrooms and create breakout rooms with volunteers for students that were having specific issues and concerns. And that was a very important program because we saw not only the need for students, but during the Zoom sessions, we would not only see the student, but we would see all their family in the pictures too. The brothers, the sisters, the mother and father, their grandmothers, we saw the whole families. And they were interested in finding out what school was like. And that's what they did during the Zoom sessions that we had with teachers, is that they all joined in. It was almost as if they were getting educated about how the school system works and where does their child fit into it. And that was a really eye-opening experience for us because we also realized that a lot of the students needed English as a second language or English language learners. They needed some support. And their families, in a sense, needed it too because there were a lot of families that did not speak English. And so that was an interesting time. Our statistics actually went down in terms of the number of volunteers, but that was because of the COVID and because of some of the restrictions that came with the COVID. But otherwise, we had a really good response. Next. These are some of the success stories that I don't need to read through, but I'll let you take a little minute to read. Christy is a true blessing. She is natural with the children. This year, my kids have shown a marked improvement in both the memorization of basic facts and in problem solving. And the volunteers go, I love the children, I love math, and being able to help the kids with math. When kids understand math, they will love math. Next. And there's a couple more testimonies there. Next. Without Matthew's time and gentle instruction, the student may not have passed this enormous component of his senior year and graduation. I'm so very grateful to have had his help. That's referring to the Oceana High School Senior Exhibition Program, and we provide volunteers for students who need help to organize their presentation. And so this particular volunteer helped this student in Oceana High School. After months of hard work, it was wonderful seeing him on the stage, addressing his friends and family with confidence. A little nervous, yes, but sure in the knowledge that he gained. Yeah. Some of the events that we do, that we've done in the past couple of years. Read Aloud Day is a very popular event. We had one at LMEC, Valimar School, Ortega, Sunset, and we're planning more Read Aloud Days in the spring of 2023. Again, the Oceana High School Senior Exhibitions, Volunteer Recognition in Tea, Pacifica Eco Fest, which I don't even know exists anymore, but it used to be down at the beach, and we used to sell vegetarian, world-famous vegetarian chili down there as a fundraiser. The Fog Fest Games tent, and then Think Bridge Camp. And we'll hear a little bit about Think Bridge Camp next. Next to the enrollment procedures for new volunteers. I would like to go over this only because it's one of the toughest parts of organizing Pacifica School volunteers is the enrollment process and the security clearance process. And it's also one of the biggest expenses to us, which is actually the prices are increasing now because each one of our volunteers need to be fingerprinted and then go through a Department of Justice check on criminal records or criminal activity. So this is a procedure that all our volunteers have to follow. So as you can see, it's pretty extensive. Interested volunteers contact PSV to arrange an interview. They have to fill out an application. If they're over the age of 18, they need to have fingerprinting and also TB clearance and the DOJ clearance too. Volunteers receive orientation before starting with schools in the Pacifica School District. PSV determines best placement of volunteers based on volunteer schedule, interest, and teachers' needs. PSV maintains contact with both volunteers and teachers to ensure successful placement, provide year-end evaluations. High school volunteers are placed in after-school programs, and all volunteers must follow district protocol for COVID-19 vaccination requirements and safety procedures. I know that that's loosened up, but you never know, it might tighten up. But we, even in our Think Bridge camp and in our regular operations, we follow the guidelines that the district has for COVID. Next. Our goals for the next year is to have 50 community volunteers serving 55 classrooms, 25 after-school high school students providing 75 hours a week, one new Read Aloud Day in 2023, and we used to have a literacy training program. One of the language specialists used to train our volunteers once a month. I think that we've lost that position, but we would like to find perhaps another replacement because it was really helped our volunteers learn about literacy and how to help students move on or move beyond their current literacy levels. Next. Financial support. We have the Lockton Corporation, Safeway, Wells Fargo, and Walmart. The foundations are Woodlawn, Atkinson, Fleischacker, and Robbins. And we have community donations from Mitzvah Fellowship and school district CPOs, which is a really big help to us. And in addition, I wanted to add the Silicon Valley Community Foundation, Pacificans Care, Pacifica Lions Club, and St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church. So that's the regular part of our services. And real quickly, how am I doing on time? Okay, thank you. Our biggest money generator is ThinkBridge, and we We depend on the district to help support us with providing facilities and operations for ThinkBridge Camp. It's a very unique camp, and last year we had it at IBL under COVID restrictions, but we had a very successful camp, and it was really a lot of fun, and we liked the IBL location too. Next. So ThinkBridge Camp lets campers explore new and creative ideas through the application of imagination. Campers ages 7 through 12 years old together to build robots that can dance, learn how to sing in a choir, and learn songs that recite the capital cities of our United States. Next. Or learn how to construct an apartment building on the planet Jupiter. What would that look like? Next. And maybe we solved the world's problem, sort of. Volunteers from all over the Bay Area donate their time to help our campers have a super time. And we look forward to having ThinkBridge Camp this year, too. It's a very unique camp, and the campers love it. In closing, our dedicated teachers, staff, and parents work diligently to provide a quality education for our students, but volunteers are needed to support our students in schools. Pacifica School Volunteers is committed to engaging our community and to promoting literacy, math, and helping children succeed in school. If you have as little as an hour a week, you can help our students succeed in school. For more information, call PSV at 650-355-9432, or you can email us at PSV, as in Pacifica School Volunteers, .director @pacificasd.org. Also, PSV has a position opening, a paid position opening for part-time volunteer coordinator. You can find out more information on our website at pacificaschoolvolunteers.org. And that's it.
For the presentation.
Thank you.
Patrick.
Thanks for the time.
I have a question though, because I think about 2 months ago, you had talked about the coordinator position.
Yeah,
And
the volunteer coordinator position.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's a way we could put like a link in our newsletter, or the parent emails, or the PTOs, because we have a lot of parents out there who are experienced with PTOs,
Yes.
and volunteering and how to look. So, somebody might be here in Pacifica for that position.
That's a
So
great idea.
I'm just wondering if you've had the chance to give us something, or...
Yeah, there, on the website there is a job description and application, but also we've already passed the job description around to all the PTOs, and the schools have been helping us put that in their newsletters. And so as resources come up, we want to place that job announcement in there. So anything that you have, we're ready to go on that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Alright, district goals. The district values the goals provided in our Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP, and Strategic Plan. All of our district board agenda items are tied to these goals. One or more goals are listed in the description of each board agenda item. The details for each of those district goals can be accessed on our district website at www.pacificasd.org. All right, public hearing resolution number 2022-10-12-A, statement of assurance for pupil textbook and instructional materials. Mr. Lucy?
Yes, thank you. As required by Ed Code, the governing board shall hold a public hearing or hearings and shall make the determination through a resolution as to whether each pupil in each school in the district has or will have, prior to the end of the fiscal year, sufficient textbooks and instructional materials. So it is the district's commitment to ensure that all students have adequate adopted textbooks and materials. And this would include all the consumables items. As an example, the Bridges math has consumable items that are yearly, but all the other core subject areas, making sure that we have the materials for them, on the consumable materials, on a yearly basis. Our current district adopted curriculum, as you can see there on the list, is we have Bridges for Math, K-5, CPM for our 6-8. Our current adopted science program for K-5 is FOSS California Edition. And then the Houghton Mifflin Hardcourt Science is was recently adopted for our 6-8. Our History and Social Science, we have the Houghton Mifflin for K-3, the McGraw-Hill Adventures in Time and Place for 4-5, and then the TCI History Alive California, which was adopted in 2018. In English Language Arts, our Teachers College Reading and Writing Workshop is a K program. And for health, we have Puberty Talk for our 5th, Teen Talk for our 7th. We've also had Puberty Workshop for our 5th, and 2013 Glencoe Teen Health Course 1 and 2 for our 6-8s. So our T5 science adoption process, we are in the midst of an adoption process. In fact, the committee has already met and will continue to meet, and they are piloting programs. This adoption process actually started before the pandemic and got paused by the pandemic. At that time, Sarah Watanabe, who's now works for the San Mateo County Office of Education, she was our science specialist and was leading that adoption. She is now taking over and helping Pacifica School District with that adoption process. Like I said, the teachers are and will be piloting science curriculum from state-approved adoption lists, and we hope to have a selection for adoption from the board and board approval with the implementation for 23-24. I'd also like to note that we are also reviewing or evaluating the 6-8 adoption. There's no intention of, since it was recently adopted, there's no intention of moving away for now, but we are going through an evaluation process because that adoption process, one of the things we wanted to do was, after a year of implementations, we wanted to continue to review that particular 6-8 adoption. So that's happening. Up next is we need to move on to our TK5 History Social Science adoption. That's another one that is long overdue of being looked at. So that'll be our next adoption that we'll be going through adoption process. So what you have in front of you tonight is a resolution for approval of the recommendation that they approve the statement of assurance of pupil textbooks and resources and materials, which is an annual compliance thing that we need to do each year. So, any questions?
I'm curious to understand what the process is once a textbook is adopted, on the feedback or kind of experience teachers have with it within the first year or so of adoption. So the science one is upcoming, but for previous curriculum, what's the process?
Usually there's a process that's there's a part of the adoption process that goes through it for any of the subject areas, is that there is an evaluation piece that the teachers will do on a yearly basis. This is why we're doing that for the 6-8 science adoption, is we're actually utilizing Sarah Watanabe in that process, because when you pilot a program, there's also surveys that go out, evaluations of it, the pros and the cons of it, what does it have, and all of this in being in alignment with what the standards are saying, and like those pieces. So that process continues on a yearly. It should be on a yearly basis. the pandemic threw kind of a big, huge curveball into that. But that is the process. That part of the science adoption or any adoption is that you do have some timely, sometimes it's annually, sometimes it's every other year, evaluation of that adoption from the teachers who are implementing it. We had been doing that with Bridges Math when it first got adopted. In fact, we got a lot of positive feedback. They weren't happy about the setup of all the materials. They had to get prepared, but they said the actual implementation of it, that the students and the teachers were really, we got a lot of positive comments on that math adoption. And that also tails into the idea of where do we need professional development for the teachers, and the constant goal of implementing it with integrity, like implementing it fully and not just picking pieces and parts of it, that there's some consistency across the board on that.
And is there professional development or support offered to principals in kind of understanding how these newer textbooks should be used, like what to look for in terms of what's working and what may need additional support?
Ideally, yes, there is professional development that the principals would be involved in. Usually they're involved with it side by side with the teachers. In the science adoption process, usually you would want a administrative part there. I mean, the key components would be the teachers themselves, so they're implementing it. But I don't believe we have an administrator on this particular K-5 science adoption. I'd have to check to see if we do have one. But I know that that professional development, there's always the inclusiveness of the administrators to be involved in that, because they're going to be doing the walkthroughs, they're going to be doing and they're going to be helping out with the evaluation of the program too, the adoption.
Yeah, I just agree with you that I think it's really important for administrators to be involved in that too.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-10-12-A, Statement of Insurance for Pupil Textbook and Instructional Materials?
I'll make a motion to add.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Barbara, will you take the vote, please?
Yes, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. District proposal for LSEA negotiations. This is Dr. Torres.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. Tonight, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees adopt the Pacifica School District's initial contract proposal for negotiations with LSEA for the 2023-2024 school year. In preparation for successor contract negotiations with LSEA, the district has examined and reviewed all provisions of the current collective bargaining agreement. Pursuant to Government Code Section 3547, the Pacifica School District hereby sunshines and submits the following initial proposals to the Laguna Salada Educational Association. Article 7, Calendar. The district has an interest in developing and agreeing to calendars for multiple years that acknowledge the needs of our families. Article 9, Compensation. The district has an interest in providing fair and equitable total compensation as defined in Section 9.1 for all unit members, clarifying language regarding health and benefits, exploring adjustment of the teacher in charge stipend to more fully and accurately describe teacher in charge responsibilities, considering suggestions made by the Salary Restructure Committee, and in maintaining the district's long-term fiscal solvency. Article 17, Site-based decision-making. The district has an interest in negotiating language regarding site-based decision-making. Article 24, Teacher in Charge. The district has an interest in negotiating language that would add responsibilities to a teacher in charge description. Added responsibilities would support the principal to address needs at the school site. Article 25, Peer Assistance Review. The district has an interest in negotiating language that would address the current practice of peer assistance review.
Are there any questions regarding this item? Do I have a motion to approve the district's initial contract proposals for negotiations with LSEA for the 2023-2024 school year?
I'll
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Barbara, will you take the vote, please?
Yes, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. All right, approval of resolution 2022-10-12B, week of the school administrator. This is also you, Dr. Torres.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve Resolution 2022-10-12B to honor district school administrators during the week of the school administrator, October 9th through the 15th of 2022. Some background, per Education Code 44015.1, in observance of the importance of educational leadership at the school district, and county levels, the second full week in the month of October of each year shall be designated as Week of the School Administrator. Schools, school districts, and county superintendents of schools are encouraged to observe the week with public recognition of the contribution that school administrators make to their schools and community. Research has repeatedly shown that quality school leadership is essential to student success. These leaders, in turn, are supported by a network of dedicated professionals, including special education and general education leaders, classified educational leaders, among many others. The importance of effective school leadership and district office leaders is essential, and in the Pacifica School District, we see evidence of such great administrative leadership.
Dr. Torres, can I just stop you for 1 second? Is to put in a plug for the principals in terms of our 2 newest principals. We're in the full day 3rd through 5th grade Bridges training the other day as people new to Bridges. When we talked about restructuring our board meetings to have students lead the Pledge of Allegiance and the land acknowledgement, Dr. kind of immediately volunteered to be the first school to do that. And I think that the pandemic and the return has been as challenging to certificated, classified, and school principals. And so we want to give a big shout out to our school administrators. I was hoping we could honor them by reading round robin, reading the resolution out loud, and then acknowledging them at the end. Would that be okay?
You want to approve it before we?
Oh, either way, we can read it out loud or approve it, your choice.
Let's approve it first, and then
Okay.
we'll read it. Okay. Were you finished, Dr.
I
Chen?
was finished.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Any questions regarding this item? All right, do I have a motion to approve, a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-10-12-B, Week of the School Administrator?
A motion to approve Resolution 2022-10-12-B, Week of the School Administrator.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Barbara, will you take the vote, please?
Yes, all in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes 4-0.
All right, and now we can read it.
I'll start it off. Whereas leadership matters for the Pacifica School District and the students we serve every day, the strong leadership, resilience, flexibility, problem solving, and hard work of administrators supports the ongoing learning of all students and staff. And whereas the title school administrator is a broad term used to define many education leadership posts, superintendents, directors, principals, assistant principals, special education leaders, school business officials, classified education leaders, and other school district employees are considered administrators. And
whereas school administrators are passionate, lifelong learners who embrace a growth mindset and who believe in the value of an equitable, quality public education. And
whereas school administrators have reimagined their roles to meet the aftermath challenges of the post-pandemic by working alongside their staffs to support them by sharing mental health services, engaging in learning-focused discussion and feedback, and continue to implement health and safety guidelines and adjusting as guidelines or needs change. And
whereas administrators are lead learners who work hard to stay focused on improving instruction for students by attending professional development alongside their staff, collaborating with their colleagues to share best practices, and supporting staff so they can focus on teaching and learning. And
whereas school administrators understand the importance of family engagement in student success and partner with teachers to provide parent support and serve on a wide variety of district committees, including District English Learner Advisory Committee and Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, and
whereas school leaders team with parents, volunteers, community partners, and staff to meet the needs of our students and families and promote ongoing student achievement and school success, serving as an example of public service and pride in our community. And
whereas most school leaders began their career as teachers, with the average educational leader serving as public education for more than a decade. Most of our California superintendents have served in education for more than 20 years. Such experience is beneficial in their work to effectively and efficiently lead public education and improve student achievement. And
whereas research shows great schools are led by great principals and great districts are led by great superintendents. These site leaders are supported by extensive administrative networks throughout the county and state. And
whereas the state of California has declared the week of October 9th through 15th, 2022 as the week of the school administrator for Education Code 44015.1, and
whereas the future of California's public education system and the more than just under 6 million students it serves depends upon the quality of its leadership. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees strongly encourages all members of the district community to join us in personally expressing appreciation to our school leaders for their dedication and commitment to the students, families, and staff of the Pacifica School District. Passed and adopted by the following vote on this 12th day of October 2022. At the end, if we can just get all of your signatures on that, that would be helpful to us.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, public report on developer fees, Ms. Peterson.
Thank you, Trustee Doggett. So tonight I'm presenting to you the annual public report on developer fees. It's been posted publicly for the required period at the libraries and the school offices. Just kind of to reiterate what developer fees are, that is whenever there is construction in Pacifica, whether it be commercial or residential, the city of Pacifica collects a permit fee, and it is divided between the Jefferson Union High School District and the Pacifica School District to alleviate the impact of growth in Pacifica. And the fee goes into a restricted account, the developer fee account, to be used for areas of growth when we have to increase student capacity at certain areas. And so we haven't really spent these fees in the last several years, and you've seen the balance grow. It hasn't been a lot of construction in Pacifica, but we do have a balance now when you look at the financial report. We started with just under $700,000 at the beginning of the 2021-22 school year, and we ended the year with about $760,000 of developer fees. And now that we have our facilities master plan, and as you know, Cece's been working very hard on moving forward with those projects, we have identified projects that match the use of the developer fee funds. And the first project would be the Valley Mart expansion, which we'll talk about next. And so we will be using these fees to offset the bond funds to help us with the Valley Mart expansion and pay for some of the temporary housing. So tonight you have the financial report, the public posting, and this has been available to the public. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board might have tonight about developer fees. Any questions? Thank you. All right, approval of contract regarding Valimar School temporary housing. Ms. Peterson again. Thank you. Tonight, we're asking the board to authorize us to enter into a contract for Valley Mart temporary housing while we work on the D-Wing expansion, which is part of the facilities master plan that will occur from January 23 through June 23. We are getting prepared to have some temporary housing for the students in the very back of Valley Mart School where the basketball courts are. So we did have a public bid opening on September 27th. We had 3 bidders, and the lowest bidder, responsible bidder, is Andreni Brothers, Inc. for $530,000. We're asking the board to authorize us to enter into a contract with them, and this will be funded with Fund 25, the developer fee account.
Are there any questions regarding this contract?
Josie, I was just curious when I was reading this with Bana Builders, 878,000. And then, in the mid-fives were the other two. I mean, what was the difference there?
I don't have their bid sheet of all their subcontractors to identify what the exact difference was, but that's not unusual to have. The more bidders you have, the bigger range you have, and so it's not unusual, but we could look at which subcontractor, which cost was higher and let you know what that big difference is.
I
And
was just curious.
it could also be their location. I'm not sure where they're located, but sometimes bidders from out of the area will bid higher.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Should I have a motion to authorize staff to enter in contract with Andretti Brothers, Inc. for the Valimar School Temporary Housing Project?
A motion.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Barbara, will you take the vote?
Yes, all in favor, please raise your hands. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Approval of the contract regarding Valimar School Fence and Walkway Project. This is also you, Ms. Peterson.
Thank you, Trustee Doggett. Again, we're asking the board to authorize us to enter into a contract for the Valimar School Fence and Walkway Project. And this goes along with what Laverne talked about earlier about school safety. And so this project is going to build the fencing all the way from the back of the back of the district office, all the way around the school. And it will be the taller fencing, the more efficient fencing that's going to last in our ocean climate. And in addition to that, it's going to improve our hardscape. When you look at along the fencing, we've always had difficulties with the weeds, and the pathway has been uneven. So with this fence, we're going to have a nice, even, smooth walkway that goes all the way around the back of the district office and all the way around the front of Valimar School. And it will be the secure fencing that you've seen put up at other school sites. So this was the bid opening. This is another tight timeline for CC to work through. The bid opening was just held on Friday, October 7th. And the two bidders were Dryco and Cal Pacific, both construction companies that we're familiar with and have worked well with. And the lowest bidder is Dryco Construction for $521,000. And this would be funded with bond funds. And so we're asking the board to authorize us to enter into contract with Dryco tonight. Yes?
It does mention synthetic turf at the front of the school. I was just curious which sections we were talking about.
So I don't have the exact section. I'm thinking it might be that over by the kinder yard, but I'm not 100% sure because we've talked about several sections that it could benefit from. So I'm going to get those details to you in the weekly update. Okay. But it's going to look really good when you go to Sunset Ridge and you enter the front area and you see that synthetic turf. It's clean and it really brightens the school. I'm thinking it's that area over there, but I'm not 100% sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other questions regarding this contract? All right, do I have a motion to authorize staff to enter into contract with Dryco Construction, Inc. for the Valimar School Fence and Walkway Project?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Barbara, will you take the vote, please?
Yes, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0.
All right, student achievement, formative assessment, I-ready. Mr. Lucy?
Yes. Let me get this up here for you. This is an information item. And actually, the title is a little, it's not clear. Actually, this is not just for the formative assessment. This is both, this is an assessment update that includes some CASP, which is some SBAC data, and in also some LPAC, but also has the iReady assessment update on there. The reason why we're able to share the CASP data is because originally
The release of the CASP scores, the SBAC scores, weren't going to occur until they released the California dashboard, which was supposed to happen at the same time. And they were estimating that would be around November, December that release was. But there's been a lot of pressure on the state to actually release the information. And they've allowed us, for the purposes of planning, we were provided previews of it. So this is preliminary data as far as the CASP is concerned. This is preliminary. It's not. It'll be more finalized when we receive it, the dashboard and the data released at the same time. And it's very general. The other piece is in sharing the CASP data, it was recommended that we do not compare it to previous CASP scores. And one of the main reasons is because 70% of our students, or a little under 70% of our students, eligible students, took the assessment in 2021, and we have close to 95 or over 95% took it in 21-22. So sometimes in comparing those two pieces of data, it's not valid to compare the two. So I always like to bring this first piece up. This is something you've seen before, but again, at the beginning of the year, we want to, just like every year, we want to know each student. We want to analyze data and collaborate on it, and we want to provide impactful instruction support, especially since we have our new local assessment, iReady assessment system, is that we're able to really collaborate around that data 3 times a year. So we're getting kind of real-time data. So I'm going to start with the state, and we have an assessment calendar that is shared with every teacher, every parent. Anybody can access this assessment calendar. It tells you the state assessments or the state provided assessments, and then also tells you the local assessments. So I'm going to start with the state assessments. We have an LPAC assessment. That's for our English learners. There's two types of those assessments. There's the initial assessment. So when a student comes in, when they are initially assessed, usually they're mostly kindergartners, but we do get them at grade levels. They have not been identified. They're considered TBD, which is to be determined, until they've taken the initial assessment and they're identified as initial fluent English proficient, or they're identified as an English learner. And then there's the summative assessment, which is given to all English learners, all identified English learners every year. And so right around February, that assessment is given. And that evaluates their language proficiency and in a number of different categories: oral, written, listening, speaking. And that is a way of us gauging how we're doing with the language acquisition of our English learners. And then there's the CASP test, and you're familiar with the CASP test. We have the SBAC, which is the math and English language arts, is the main part of the assessment. We have also the CAW, which is the alternative for those two assessments. And then we have the CAS, which is the science assessment, and the CAW. Those are for 5th and 8th graders. They also take it again or they take a CAST in 10th, between 10th and 11th grade in high school. And then we have the fitnessgram, which is our PFT. It's a physical fitness test, and that's given to our 5th and 7th graders. Last year, we were only required by the state. They only wanted participation. They didn't want scores, so we submitted just participation. That didn't mean that we didn't get scores. So the school sites had those scores, and those scores could be shared from grade level to grade level and as they moved on, but they weren't required to be sent in to the California Department of Education. So in looking at the CAS scores, this is a chart that shows all students, and that middle number, 53%, is those students who have met or exceeded the standard for English language arts. For ELA is on your left, on my left too, and the mathematics is on the right. You can see that we are at 53 and 51% there. And then we also looked at students who were English learners, and that number is much lower, unfortunately. It's 16, almost 17% in English language arts, and at 17% in mathematics. And then we looked at students who were what is referred to as socioeconomically disadvantaged, or students that are economically disadvantaged, and those numbers were at 32% for English language arts and almost 32% in mathematics. And then this is looking at the ELA math for students with disabilities, and that's at 17% and 16% for the 21-22, this past one that we have. And then this chart is for our English LPAC, and this is the summative assessment. So this was given in February to, at that time, our English language learners. And the proficiency is a combination, the proficiency, the number in the middle is 18%. That is in combination of the level 4s. To be proficient, you need to have to be at a level 4. Level 3, you're moderately developed, but you're not well developed until you're at the level 4. And for 2021, that's based on 261 English learner students, and in 21-22, when we had the 11.39%, that was based on 202 English learner students. And then we also want to take a look at it's almost goes hand in hand with that proficiency, those levels, is those students that we know that, how many years have they been in a U.S. school, and been enrolled in a U.S. school, and, that they still are an English learner. We have 126 that are 0 through 3 years. Our students that we think are at risk of becoming long-term English learners are those students that have been enrolled for 4 to 5 years. In a U.S. school, we have 47. Our long-term English learners, which is 6 or more years enrolled in the U.S., is at 59. And then there are students that are English learners that are 4 or more in the U.S. school, but are not at risk because of the either the delay that they were initially assessed, or there was another reason, and I don't. There's 2 reasons why those 17, even though they've been 4 or more years, but they're not considered at risk. They're making more than expected progress. Yeah. So they may have been assessed late, in their initial, but they've made so much progress that even though they're in at 4 or more, that they're still. They're not considered at risk at that time. And then our local assessments, we have for our kindergartners, we have the ESGI, and that's a pre-reading phonics awareness and pre-math assessment for all our kindergartners. It's given 3 times a year. Some of our kindergarten teachers are giving it actually more than 3 times a year, but we're asking them to give it at least 3 times a year. And then we have the iReady, which is our main local assessment for reading and math, and that's given 3 times a year. We just finished our first one on September 30th, 1st through 8th. And then the Fontes Pinnell, and Fontes Pinnell is truly a local assessment because it really is a tool that the teachers and the school sites are using themselves to determine reading levels, and benchmark and see if students are progressing, because it's an assessment that's given one-on-one. The teacher really gets some really valuable information from that, and that's given really twice a year. It could be given 3 times a year, depending if the student is targeted for support. And in the MDTP, which is the math readiness test, at this time we're giving it just to the 8th graders in the spring, and the purpose of that one really is to help, not to determine, but to help with a decision around math course placement in their freshman year of high school. So the reading diagnostic, with this, we like to take a look at the 2 years, because we are now in our second year of full implementation of iReady, and we're going to start off with reading in 21-22 in the window 1, meaning that first assessment that they took at the beginning of the year. This is where their overall placement is. You can look at the placement domains below. But I would really kind of direct you to that first bar, which gives you from mid or above grade level to early on grade level to 1 grade level below to 2 grade levels to 3 grade levels below. You can look at the percentages on top, and then you can look at actually the numbers of students on the bottom. And then when I switch, if you can kind of remember where those colors are, you'll notice that they're literally the same this year, which is really interesting to me. The way the iReady diagnostic is set up and the way they do the initial diagnostic, it is not beneficial to compare the end of last year's to the beginning of this year's, because again, they're a grade level up, right? The diagnostic is computer adaptive, meaning that they're giving questions at different levels or different grade levels, and based on the answers of those questions, they're really trying to find where their placement is. So it is interesting to see that in reading we have literally almost the same percentages, a little bit better this year than last year. I mean, we have 21 and 18 to 22 and 19 on the front end, and then the back end 14 and 13 to 14 and 13. So pretty similar. If we move to math, again, in looking at the domains are at the bottom there, but in looking at the numbers and percentages up top, if I go from 21-22, which is the chart that's up right now, to 22-23, it's again very similar. 21-22 at 8 and 18 in the top end, to 10 and 19, so a little bit better, and then 16 and 10 to 15 and 10 on the back end there. And again, the numbers are below. If you notice that in 21-22, we had 2,230 students take it, and this year we had 2,219. Now our numbers were a little lower, not much lower, but a little lower as far as total enrollment in those areas, but equating to a pretty similar percentage, but that's something just to note. So kind of a summary of the findings. Here, I'd like to kind of point out these highlights that kind of jumped out. Both our students who were English learners and our students with disability had less than 20% meeting or exceeding standards in both ELA and math. That's something that clearly jumped out. There was also 23% fewer English learners in 2021-22 as compared to 2021. So there were a smaller kind of sample size. Now that could equate to when they were given in February, when they were given the summative assessment they're giving from 1 February to the next February, there could have been a number of, and there was actually a number of students that were redesignated. They were no longer considered English learners, right? They were kind of lumped in. Now that's going to change when you hit the dashboard, because they keep those students in there even if they're redesignated. But for this purposes, on this particular LPAC, there is a difference between the two because of the redesignation. There's a drop, right? Right now we have 233 students that are English language learners this year. So the number has gone back from 202 to 233. But based off the scores that we have from this past year, we will be redesignating a number of students. So by the time they take it in February, that we'll have a number closer to 200, maybe possibly below 200 in that area. So I thought that was interesting. 43% of our English learners in 21-22 were at risk, 4th and 5th, or were LTLs. I mean, the 43%, I thought that was kind of stood out. That's almost like, you're heading towards 50% of your English learners are either at risk or long-term EL. So there's something that needs to be done in that area. In comparing with overall reading and math placement of window 1, 21-22, and to window 1 of 21-23, there are almost identical percentages, as I pointed out, in all 5 levels, which I thought was really interesting. So activities. So what do we need to do? Like, what does this tell us? What do we need to do? So here are some activities to support the student growth. We've been doing a lot of math bridges, number corners, and unit refreshers for our TK5s, not only just for our new teachers, but also for our students. At the last October 7th PD day, we had professional development around that. Really good too, really solid professional development, especially those 3rd through 5th who had the in person with Allison Fox, who's phenomenal in my mind. But they all had that training in there to really kind of as a refresher and to be able to kind of think about what they're doing. The Math Bridges intervention kits was provided to our K-5, training was provided to our K-5 special education teachers. We also had on October 7th our iReady delivery of differentiated, we are going to, starting tomorrow, which is why Dr. Olson and myself will be subbing over Cabrillo. We will be, the Cabrillo teachers, and then it'll happen at each of the other schools, will be getting iReady delivering differentiated instruction PD for each of their sites, which will include looking at their data. It'll include what, how to break, not to break, but how to provide small group instruction. What does that look like? What groups might you consider in doing that? And then also, what does it mean to deliver differentiated instruction? There's a lot of tools out there around differentiated instruction, and iReady has a lot of resources around there to help with that area. We also this year, which was different from last year, is every single student in 1st through 8th grade has a personalized instruction license. And some of the time on Friday was spent creating a plan, creating a schedule of how are you going to fit this into your in-school schedule, and also how you're going to fit it in so that that these personalized, all have access, but just encouraging them to use that online tutoring, because it is a very helpful resource. And then our next steps is we'll continue with sites to review data, and some of the data you saw today, but actually even diving more deeply into the data, and that not only includes the academic data, but also we have some survey data that is out and available from our recent surveys that can be beneficial in reviewing. And then we're going to be developing school SIPSAs, or school plans for student achievement, and we're going to be reviewing those school plans at our November 30th board meeting. So there's going to be the principals and the sites, along with the support from the district, is going to be helping put those those SIPSAs together based off this data review that they had, which is going to benefit their actions and their goals and so on. So that was a lot of information. It was, I'm not going to apologize. It was very broad information, and the reason why is because we're kind of constrained with this idea that we can't compare it. I mean, I always wanted to go, what about that percentage back in 1819? Or you just can't compare it to, and I've been told by San Mateo County Office of Ed, do not do that. In fact, they're not even sharing the state data because they don't want districts comparing it to the state right now. They're not even sharing the state data to anybody. So, any questions?
What questions do you have?
One question I have is just, what supports do ELL students get? And do we have plans for additional supports in that area?
Yeah, there are actions that are in place at school sites right now, but it's not enough. So one of the things that we are doing is Ellie from Sunset Ridge and myself are going to be sitting in on an English learner master plan. We do have a plan that was, I think, back in 2012 or 13. There was a plan that was put together, but we need to align it with the EL roadmap, but also to have it be data driven, based off our Pacifica's specific needs. So that's one thing that's happening. Ellie and I are going to be attending a series of meetings to actually put together the plan, to get some support about how we can put together a plan for that. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is we are it's like one step forward and then 2 steps back, but we are working with San Mateo County to put together some supports that can be like on-site. We've had some professional development on-site for that, but we need to do more around the idea of language acquisition. We've had some professional development on content and how to to provide academic support for English language learners, but really the language acquisition piece needs a little bit of a boost. So we're working with San Mateo County Office of Ed to try to put together something that we can deliver to definitely to Sunset Ridge and IBL, but to all the sites and to a certain degree.
Yeah, my only comment is just making sure it is all these sites. I know that we've got more students at those particular sites, but just because there's fewer at the smaller or at the other schools, we also need to address them too and not forget about them. So that was my only question around it.
Yes.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that comment, once you have the opportunity to kind of craft what that EL support looks like, it would be great to see that, similar to the other PD options you have for general ed. What's the best kind of plan to come up with? So that would be one request. And then the other question that I have is, so you've identified kind of an acute area for us to look at with respect to the achievement gap between English language learners and the general population of the schools, which I think is an important one to consider. I also think looking at trend line in general across the years, obviously COVID years are difficult to look at, I think would also be important to kind of understand as a district where we're headed and where we're going. Even when you do comparisons with last year's CASP data, this year's CASP data is a little bit lower, but it's hard to compare, right? Because a couple points here and there, those are just kind of normal deviations. And so I'm curious to know what kind of trend lines we've been seeing over 5 years, let's say, in ELA and in math within some of these subgroups. And if we as a district have been making progress, or if there's things that we just need to reevaluate.
Yeah. It's going to be difficult for the time being to do that on a state level, except maybe with the LPAC, but definitely with the SPAC, it's going to be difficult. I do want to state that the dashboard that's going to come up, this coming one, will be a status report, won't be a progress report like they've always claimed it being progress. This upcoming year is going to be a status report. In fact, it's not going to be a pie. It's going to look like your cell phone little lines. So it's just going to show literally your status at that particular time. It's almost reestablishing a baseline for yourself. But we can definitely do that with our local assessment data and the LPAC. There have been, and I can share that if you're interested, there have been a look at specific students from year to year if they've grown in their language acquisition from year to year. Like, we can take a close look at that. Obviously not providing names, but be able to see, okay, what are the percentages of students that are progressing at least a year in proficiency versus the ones that are not. I mean, I did show that chart that showed 4 or 5 and 0 to 3, but actually drilling it down to even from year to year how a particular student is progressing, and understand that is and will be done at a site level, definitely, especially when they have their groups of these are English learners, this is how they did, this is how they're moving forward, that type of thing. But yeah, through the local assessment, definitely that can be done.
And then even for the general population, because you had a slide to compare the EL versus the overall student population, if we could see trend lines for the overall student population as well, that was helpful for the EL data. Okay. But I'd love to just generally understand, are we making progress, or should we look into thinking about things differently to support students and teachers in general. And then one quick question on the iReady, because you're doing it at the beginning of the year, when you say on grade level, that's for this grade level, right? So you wouldn't expect necessarily all, they just started, third grade or whatever it is, and so they aren't yet on grade level. So that's to be expected, is that right? And then is the expectation in an ideal world that 100% are on grade level by the end of the year?
Well, there is, and I think I've explained it in a previous one, there's typical growth, and then there's stretch growth. So there is within the thing, this is a typical, this growth should happen typically if you've got a good running program and you're addressing needs. If you have great interventions and you are, then you can reach their stretch goals. That was one of the celebrations we had at the end of last year, was that we had a lot of our students that were getting the typical growth, and then we had a good percentage of our students that were hitting their stretch goals, which was good news. That was one of the big positives from last year. I'm hoping that continues and actually we do even better in that area. And that's another way, like you're saying, that we can see how these are progressing, and we can break it down into even student groups and about how that's happening across student groups.
Any other questions?
I just kind of have a comment. I'm curious to see how the SIPSAs address the different data that they have. And then also, I'm just wondering, since we're at the beginning of school year, what's being done as far as keeping the students on track with their attendance and what the attendance looks like so far? Because if our kids are coming to school, they're going to be learning. Even if it's, this much or this much, they're going to be learning. And so
the converse of that is true, is that if they're not coming to school, they're going to be missing out, right?
Yes.
Like that's the
So I'm just curious, some maybe next month or whatever, having the attendance involved in this, so we can see, the kids that are going to
We're
school.
going to do a school climate report, and I think in addition to the discipline part, I think school attendance would be fit in very nicely there. So, and it's so important, right? Like, it's hard to think about making up progress when a kid misses 20% of the school year.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Felicity. And CSBA Annual Education Conference, and Mrs. Dr. Olson.
Sure. So as we prepare for the transition of trustee officers, CSBA does offer a board president's workshop. We were hoping that they were going to offer it virtually, but they did not. Remember we said, let's take it virtually, and they never offered it virtually. So, but it is offered along with the annual education conference that is in San Diego this year. Next year it's in San Francisco. But being board president is such a unique job, and there are not many people in their lifetime that have been a part of that. So it was my recommendation to Trustee Brocchini that if we go in our typical pattern, that would be great preparation for if she were to be elected board president next year. So that was my recommendation, and she would like to go. But I'd also want to offer that up to any of the other trustees if you would like to attend the annual education conference that's in San Diego. The board president's is on Wednesday, but the rest are on Thursday and Friday and part of Saturday. And so is anybody else interested in attending?
I'm gonna say I can't because I'll be not on this date, but I'll be returning from out of the country, and there's no way I'm gonna take this
We're
trip.
doing a lot of traveling.
I've been to that before, and it's very beneficial to new board members or
Are you sure you don't want to go, Needy?
I'll go.
Okay. So with that,
all the peer pressure.
yes, exactly. No peer pressure. Elizabeth Bradell indicated that she was not able to go, but that works well to have someone for the two of you to go together. So what we may want to think about, since that is on the night of a board meeting, is think about if people have flexibility in their schedule to instead of meeting on November 30th, is to move it to the next Wednesday, which I think is December 7th. that December 7th?
Yeah.
Yep. So that we would just have a regular board meeting on the 7th, as opposed to trying to get people to Zoom in, which we could also do.
Sorry.
And I have not checked with Elizabeth to see if she is available on the 7th.
And so we have our reorganization meeting the next week.
We would have our reorganization the next week, yes.
Just looking at this, I already know I could do December 7th.
Okay.
The following week, though, Becca's graduating, and I'll be traveling to Lawrence, Kansas. So that's when I'm leaving.
Yeah, you indicated that. We actually can't move I mean, I guess we could move that one the following, but as we get closer and closer to the winter holidays, that gets more challenging. So we will probably have to keep that 15th one.
I'd be available on the 7th.
Yeah, I'm fine with the 7th.
Yep. Okay, so we would need someone to make a motion to move the November 30th board meeting to December 7th.
So do I have a motion to reschedule?
I'll make a motion.
And do I have a second?
Second?
And Barbara, will you take the vote, please?
Yes, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes 4-0.
Great.
All right, so
Future agenda items.
Future agenda items. So that I was waiting for that to figure out how to schedule that. So the next big things that we have coming up, next time the big presentation is school climate update, which is both mental health, discipline, school attendance. We'd also like to share some of the panorama data at that point. That seems like a natural point to do that. And then thinking about the 2023 board calendar and upcoming things in the next meetings. So we'll move that November 30th to December 7th. And that's where we do a 2-hour closed session. The bulk of that meeting is in terms of writing the superintendent's evaluation. And so what will happen is at the next meeting, we'll meet in closed session. I will report out on my goals to you, and then we ask you to each do some evaluation individually, and then you meet together for 2 hours and put that together. And what we have fit into our routine of this is that it has become the vice president's role to write the evaluation. And because it's a group effort, then it gets shared with me the next week. It's unrealistic to think that that's going to get turned around in the week. So we'll report out on that in January. I don't think that's realistic on that. Really, the bulk of November 30th will be the school plans for student achievement. Just as Mr. Lucy said, it's not just that we have the data, it's the so what part is what do we do about that, and what are the plans that are being made and implemented at the school site. I think that's going to be the bulk of that. And then typically that December 14th tends to be a shorter meeting with approval of the school plans for student achievement. So what is not on here that has been requested is specifically the report on reading, and we're going to keep our focus on completing the school plans for student achievement, and then we'll do that in the new year. Laverne?
If we could have a human resources update, it doesn't have to be extensive, but just the number of positions we still have open. Sure. And what the needs are for the schools.
Sure, we can do that in, that one we can do in early November. That'd be a good midpoint check. Anything else? We've got a busy next couple of meetings. So thank you for your flexibility in terms of changing the meeting, because I think that for the trustees that are a part of that workshop, it would be, there's so many opportunities there to have to Zoom into a board meeting, and would be a real challenge. So I appreciate that's a great team decision to move that to another day. So thank you. Okay. Unless there's anything else?
Nothing else? All right, we'll adjourn at 8:54 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.